I think when you think about your newsletter, you have to remember that you are asking to be in someone's inbox, right? And so you have to respect that place in their inbox and respect the fact that if they open your newsletter, they want something of value. They don't want every time they receive an email from you to have you trying to sell something to them.
Today, we talk commitment, consistency, and implementation in your online marketing strategy with Suzanne Moore on episode 20 of the Her Power Hustle podcast. Let's go.
This is Her Power Hustle with Michelle Talbot, where inspiration meets motivation to empower you for the perspiration of being a woman entrepreneur.
Welcome to episode 20 of Her Power Hustle. I'm Michelle Talbert. You are in the place where inspiration meets motivation to empower you for the perspiration associated with being a woman entrepreneur. I am so happy that you're joining us today. We're having a great conversation with Suzanne Tregenza Moore. She is the host of the Advancing Entrepreneur podcast, as well as a really great specialist in online marketing and newsletter creation and how to engage your audience and customers from your online platform. And whether you have a brick and mortar business or an online business, everyone is online at this point. So you can find all of the show notes for today's episode, as well as my interview on Suzanne's great podcast, Advancing Entrepreneur, at our show notes today at herpowerhustle.com/online marketing. And speaking of online marketing, there is a new player in town called Periscope, and folks are going crazy. It is a video platform that enables people to live stream and interact with viewers in real time. If you are interested or you've heard anything about Periscope or you haven't heard anything about Periscope, I recently wrote an article for Black Enterprise on the benefits of Periscope, how it can be a game changer in your business, and how you can best utilize it to really connect with customers who are existing clients and prospective clients as well. You can find that also at the show notes. I will have a link to my article on Periscope, and it includes some great scopers, as they're called, to follow as well. Finally, I wanted to put a plug in. If you are listening to this episode prior to July 18th of 2015 and you live anywhere near the South Florida area, you'll want to come out to Florida Social Con. It's the Florida Social Media Conference. I will be speaking on podcasting and how to use it as a platform to extend your brand. And also we have some information later in the show from Carla Campos, who is the creator and coordinator of the Florida Social Media Con, Florida Social Con. So I look forward, without further ado, this episode is chock full of social media, online presence, newsletters, email marketing. I think you're really going to get a lot of value out of the conversation and the information on today's show. So without further ado, I'm going to let you get to it, and I'll see you on the other side with my takeaways.
Welcome back to Her Power Hustle. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are talking about online marketing, and this is such a crucial piece of any business. So I'm very excited. As I always say, I really need another adjective for the way I feel with every interview that I do. But we are speaking today with Suzanne Tregenza Moore, who is an online marketing strategist committed to the success of fellow heart-centered entrepreneurs seeking to make a difference. Using her MBA in marketing and entrepreneurship, along with her years of online marketing experience, she helps her clients get beyond the frustration, confusion, and overwhelm. Do any of these words sound familiar? Of trying to leverage the internet to build their business. I am so excited to have Suzanne on the show. She helps her clients go through a program called Simplify Online Marketing. And let's face it, the president doesn't like to choose his suits. So let's simplify as much of our lives as we can. Suzanne, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me. I'm delighted to be here and to share whatever I can with your faithful listeners, and really just to connect with you. I am amazed at all that you have done in your life and all you've accomplished. So I'm really honored to be here and to participate in your podcast.
So honored to have you. And as my listeners know, there's always like this kernel of connection between me and every guest, whatever it is. And what I love about you, in addition to, having a heart-centered business focus, is that you're a sister podcaster. And
I am.
your podcast is called Advancing Entrepreneur, and it celebrates mission-driven entrepreneurs. So I love all of the words you use: heart-centered, mission-driven. We are in the right place today.
Absolutely, yeah. You know what, and my podcast is, I started it in December of 2014, and I just love doing it. As you said, I always find a connection with my guests. It's a great way for me to provide a platform to introduce other people and what they do to, my listeners, and give them an opportunity to speak about what they do. And, a lot of the focus of my podcast is on the fact that anyone who is out there and who is an entrepreneur really has to bust through fear every single day. I mean, no matter what it is, no matter what kind of business you have, you are always confronted with things that you've never done before, things that you're afraid to do, people you're afraid to make that phone call to, whatever it might be. And learning how to step through those fears and conquer them in whatever way you can on any given day is the difference between being a successful entrepreneur and being one who's, continuing to struggle and kind of not get where they want to be.
Well, I love that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I love that you're talking about fear, because I would say, my listeners know that I'm a lawyer, right? So we have this JD, I have this education. That's the quote unquote safe thing to do. You too have an MBA, which is, again, the safe thing to do, but yet you're an entrepreneur, you're a podcaster. Talk to us about the fears you may have had to push through to go from, I'm going to get this MBA and have a career that's probably safe, although, we won't talk about what happened to the financial markets, but but talk to us about the point at which you had to push through your own fear of stepping out from this, possibility of having a safe and secure job with an MBA to being an entrepreneur and putting your heart center focus with your schooling.
Well, you know what? I have to be really honest. So my MBA is in entrepreneurship and marketing. I went to Babson College, the F.W. Olin School of Business at Babson College, and it's very well known actually for entrepreneurship. And I've always had this kind of entrepreneurial fire. My father left his job to go out on his own when I was probably like 13, and my mom had different businesses along the way. She did some interior design, and she had like a jewelry business, and so I saw what entrepreneurship was like firsthand when I was growing up, and I always had an appreciation for it, and kind of had this little bug in the back of my head, like someday you're going to be an entrepreneur. But you're right, I did the safe thing. I went and I got a 4-year degree, and then I worked for a couple of years, and then I got an MBA, and I went to work for entrepreneurial companies, but I didn't quite have that that confidence to jump out on my own. And when I was at a company, I went to about 6 months after 9/11, I went to a startup after having been laid off from another startup. And I was with that company from infancy until it was about a 350 person company. I experienced, going to the American Stock Exchange and the IPO, and then switching to the NASDAQ and doing the whole bell ringing ceremony and like all that stuff of, the excitement of big business, right? And I was there for about 8 years. I got married while I worked there. I had 2 children while I worked there. And around the time I had my second son, I'd known that I didn't want to stay there forever. And I'd known that I wanted my own business. And I just couldn't bring myself to say that final, like, I'm out of here, And I have to say it was also 2008, and there was a period of time where my husband and I talked about me leaving this job. And, then like the financial markets crashed and it was like, well, maybe I should kind of hang out for a little bit longer. But so what happened to me, honestly, was at a certain point, the CEO of the company was replaced. And I had reported directly to him for 8 years, and many of his direct report, I'd also already gone part-time. We were based in New Jersey, but a lot of the business was actually out in LA, and I got laid off as well.
Wow.
Because, of just the direction of the company and what was going on with the CEO. And so I got my walking papers. I didn't have the guts myself to say I quit. But I will say that when I got those walking papers, I always say I almost did a cartwheel out the door.
Now that's funny. Sometimes it's so funny how sometimes we have to be pushed out of the door. Yes.
Pushed.
Yeah.
I had to get pushed. That security, that safety, that was really big for me. And it's funny because I've kind of done a lot of work on that myself and really looked at like, wow, security for me is a big, big thing. And the lack of it is probably my biggest fear. Right. And so anyway, I took it as an opportunity. And I went forward, and at the time I thought I wanted to be a health coach. I had gotten, a degree from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and anyone in the health coaching world is probably familiar with that. And but it wasn't true to who I was. I really was a marketer at heart. And so I kind of had this epiphany one day on the phone with a friend of mine who also is a coach. And she said, what is it that you, like when you look back on all your work experiences, what is it that you have loved the most? Like what is a really good day for you? And it took me a while to kind of figure out what that was. But it boiled down to this. It was really about helping somebody solve a problem. Any day that I walked away from and I could say, you know what, I really helped that person solve that problem for themselves today. That was a great day for me. And truly the toolkit that I'm most equipped with is the marketing toolkit. And that's really, as I said, my makeup is that of a marketer. And so then I've gone forward and focused on that. And I jumped into being a virtual assistant, and that business took off. It went crazy. Like I was so busy. I was hiring team members within about 8 months. But then it's morphed to really a higher level of focus on strategy and focus on business strategy, marketing strategy. And because I was a virtual assistant, I immersed myself into all the online technology solutions that were out there. And so now I kind of feel like that's my niche, if you will. It's really about that online marketplace and how you make yourself stand out as a business owner online. So that's the story.
That's a great story. So talk to us then about marketing and combining that with helping people solve their problems. Tell us some of the high-level problems that maybe you've identified with your clients that the biggest pain point with regard to marketing.
I think the high level, I think the highest level problems like how should I market my business? I don't think that's what most entrepreneurs struggle with, like that big picture of who they are and what they want to do. I think it's the day-to-day, or I guess my focus is helping them on those day-to-day things that get overwhelming, right? Like a lot of entrepreneurs are kind of big thinkers. So they know they want to be a business coach, or they know they want to be a life coach, or they know they want to, produce an app that is the most, the app that will help people be most productive in their life, or whatever the case may be, right? But when it comes down to the like day-to-day in and out nitty gritty, that stuff that kind of gets overwhelming, the stuff that gets overlooked, how do I make this work when I'm trying to do all this big work? It's the consistency of the day-to-day is what really builds the foundation for marketing your business. It's not the one event that you speak at a year or the book that you write. Those things are big and important, and those are the kinds of things that you need to have as the big tenets of your business, right? But what really gets you, into the marketplace and consistently out there is the day-to-day stuff. It's sending a weekly newsletter. It's being present on social media consistently. It's finding a way to have people connect with you through email marketing, and so that you can touch them in more ways and in consistent ways, and not just be the person they saw speak on stage 2 years ago, right? You become a part of their life through this consistent marketing.
And that's where the word overwhelm always comes in. I recently heard Guy Kawasaki in an interview say that the average business owner should spend 2 to 3 hours per day on social media. He spends about 10 times that per day. And yes, I know it's 30 hours. Math is not my forte. But when you hear that, that the typical business person hearing Guy Kawasaki say that would want to say, oh, well, then I just need not be on social media. Let me find some carrier pigeons, because I don't have 2 to 3 hours per day, to tweet with people. But, I think that you're exactly right, that's where that overwhelm comes from, is in that day-to-day, in that
Absolutely.
day-to-day way of marketing yourself. So let's talk through then some of the strategies that you can share with us to talk with our listeners who are feeling overwhelmed, or not even, the overwhelm can be sort of the day-to-day consistency, but I mean, it can probably be even more granular than that, as to what platform should I be on? Where should I even start?
Right. Well, so I think the biggest thing is it's about setting up systems for yourself and your business, right? It's about saying, I need to reach out to whoever's on my email marketing list. I need to reach out to them regularly. So what is regular, and how can I make that work in my business right now? And, it depends on your business. I personally, there are very few businesses that I would say shouldn't have at least a monthly newsletter. If you are somebody who is focusing online, it really needs to be more like a weekly newsletter. But what I always encourage my clients to do is, if they haven't been sending something regularly, start with every other week, because weekly starts to come around really fast.
Right.
And I'd rather see someone start with every other week, but be ferociously consistent about it, than start with every week and after 5 weeks not send a newsletter for a month, because it's just been too overwhelming. So it's things like that. Figure out the frequency for you, especially on something like a newsletter. On social media, it's really important to spend time each day on social media. But that doesn't mean that you need to be on for 2 to 3 hours a day. I don't think, I mean, just that alone to me is a statement that will scare most business owners away from using social media, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So I always say this, and I don't think it's clear that there's one social media platform that every business should be on, right? I mean, a lot of people say Facebook, you got to go with Facebook, but I'm a big believer in that it depends on the audience you are trying to reach. So if you are serving professionals in your business, you really probably ought to be on LinkedIn, right? If you're an artsy, craftsy business, I'm not going to say that Facebook isn't a place to start, because really, I mean, there is a ubiquitousness to Facebook, but because of that, it's getting harder and harder to get in people's news feeds, right? So maybe if you're a craftsy person, Pinterest is the place to start. But what I always say is pick one platform. not 3, not 5, not 7. You don't try to be everywhere because no one has the time to be everywhere on their own. So pick one as an independent business owner that you can really be focused on and spend a little time in each day. And I say try to make it between 15 and 30 minutes a day. But, when I say that, I would say a block of 15 minutes. And then, a lot of times when I'm sitting waiting in the car for my kids or, doing something like that, I'm on social media for 3 minutes, for 5 minutes. It's not that that 30 minutes has to be in one block. But I do think that you should try to have probably about a 15-minute block every day that you spend. And then it's about how you use that time. So you don't this isn't about 15 minutes of connecting with your friends, right? This is about 15 minutes of strategically focused time. So you get on and you say, okay, who are the people that I follow because they're the people that are ahead of me. They're my influencers. Who are those people and what are they talking about today in social media? And what of that can I share with my people? Because you may look at it and say, oh, well, if I'm a social media person, Amy Porterfield might be, the penultimate social media person that I want to follow, or Kim Garst might be. So let me look at what they're doing. And then you say, oh, well, I don't want to share their stuff because then people will go work with them instead of coming to work with me. Right? But that's not what happens
at all.
So what happens is they say, Kim Garst, Amy Porterfield, you're like the goddesses of social media. I couldn't possibly afford to work with you. But maybe Suzanne Tregenza Moore has the package that I can afford.
That's right. And she does, listeners, right? Just so you know, she does. So we'll talk about that too. Absolutely.
So you want to be focused on those influencers, what they're sharing their stuff, connecting with the people who are connecting with them, right? Mm-hmm. Because everyone who's following them is trying to learn, mostly everyone who's following them is trying to learn something from them. Some of them are, God only knows, doing what they're doing. But, anyone who's engaging with them and connecting with what they're saying is doing that because they're trying to learn from them. Because they're going, these are like some of the top people in social media, and I want to know what they're doing.
Right.
So then by engaging with those people, the ones who are engaging with the top people, you build a repertoire, you build a connection. And you know what? Maybe there are people who end up recommending someone to you. Maybe they become your clients. Maybe they become someone you interview for your podcast. Maybe they become someone, you don't know exactly where that relationship's going to go, right? Mm-hmm. But some of them will recognize you, and especially if you share your smarts, if you share what you know, some of them are going to say, hey, actually, this chick is kind of cool too. And she knows what she's talking about. And I bet an hour with her or a 3-month program with her doesn't cost anything near what it would cost with Kim Garst or Amy Porterfield. And so that's how you use social media effectively. That, and also connecting with media. So, follow the people that you would love to be interviewed by. If you see an article, if you read an article and it's on something in your field, follow the writer of that article. Engage with them. Don't say, hey, call me up and interview me, but say, hey, I loved your article on XYZ. Great feature, really agreed with such and such point. You're engaging with them, and then they'll, see who you are. What do you do? Oh, similar work. Maybe next time I need a quote on that, I'll call her instead. These are things that happen over time and as you build relationships with people online, but, that's how it's done. And it is done. It's done in small bits of time that you take, not in being, I mean, okay, yes, if you want to spend 8 hours a day on social media, you can build relationships faster. Although also people might get a little sick of hearing from you and wonder what else you do. um, but that's how relationships are built. And you really can do that in 15 minutes to a half an hour a day.
And I love that you said that, and I think that actually debunks a lot of people's fears with regard to time, amount of time per day, and what to actually do to engage folks. So I think that those are all really great points. I would also like to talk with you a bit about newsletters, because I think that's a different type of commitment. Even though it is a commitment to be sort of putting together content, it's a different type of content. And so I would love to chat with you about that as well, because like you said, there are very few businesses that wouldn't benefit or shouldn't have a newsletter. And, that goes out by email. And yep. I recently did some research. There are over 108 billion emails sent per day worldwide in 2014. And
wow, no wonder my inbox is always full.
I think they all came to me too. I really believe that. And I think it's like 125 emails per day on average that are business emails per person. 125 wow. is the average number sent and received per day for a business person. So to cut through the noise, what are some things that now we talk about content with regard to that more structured email that we're sending out, that more structured content that we're creating? What are your thoughts on some things to include in a newsletter that we may or may not be pushing out on our daily social media?
Right. I think when you think about your newsletter, you have to remember that you are asking to be in someone's inbox, right? And so you have to respect that place in their inbox and respect the fact that if they open your newsletter, they want something of value. They don't want every time they receive an email from you to have you trying to sell something to them. And I think what so many people make the mistake of doing is saying, I've collected all these business cards, or I have these people on my email marketing list, and they don't consistently mail to them. They only mail to them when they have something to sell. And then people just feel sold. And that's not how people want to feel. I don't like it when somebody just wants to sell me, right? So the fundamental thing about your newsletter is that you've got to be providing content to the people that are on your newsletter list that they are going to appreciate. And it doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to write a brilliant article every week. You don't. But you do have to give a little something that is going to be a boost to someone. Be like, God, I've had people, I'll send a newsletter and not every week, but often I get a note like, oh my God, were you like sitting on my shoulder? Did you see exactly what was going on in my business today? This is exactly what I needed today. And, I send a video newsletter each week. I do like usually a 1 to 3 minute long video. And it's tips, it's strategies from, my business, things I see going on with my clients, frustrations that I see consistently happening. Sometimes it's a tool that I'm using that I'm finding really helpful, whatever it may be. But anyone who's using online marketing that opens it, I hope, appreciates, the content I'm providing each week. And my goal, when I focus on, what am I talking about this week? I think, okay, what does somebody who's struggling to do online marketing need this week? And that's what comes out. So the foundation piece of your newsletter, every time you send it, whatever frequency that is a piece of content that, and it can be written, it can be video, whatever format you're most comfortable with, that provides value to the person who opens that newsletter. Again, doesn't have to be enormous earth-shattering value, right? Although if you can do that every week, go for it. Like, you're awesome.
Right, you rock.
If you can do that every week, God bless you.
Right.
But, most weeks it's going to be a small tip. And then sometimes you can do something bigger. Sometimes you go, you know what? I've got something more in me. Maybe it's this week, or maybe it's going to take me a little while to put it together, but I've got it. And you work on it over a couple of weeks. Doesn't mean you don't send a newsletter for those couple of weeks. If you would consistently, it means you work on it for those couple of weeks on the side, and then you send like the big whammy article, right?
Right.
And so that to me is fundamental in a newsletter. Other things that I always, kind of recommend to people, I love having a personal note at the top of my newsletter, and I love it when others do the same. Why? Because we're people, right? People don't come by my services because of a name. They don't come by my services because of anything, but most of the time it's because in one way or another they've met me. And if you could see me, you would know that I'm doing little air quotes on that. They've met me.
Right.
They might have met me on social media. But the thing about it is I put enough information out there that's about me as a person that people can feel like they get to know me, at least to a certain extent. And so I always have this little intro to my newsletter because, I mean, some people open the newsletter. I know that's the only part they read. I know that. I have friends that get on my newsletter list and they're like, well, at least I know what's going on with you,
We have the same friends.
Right?
Clearly.
Right. And, so they're like, well, at least I know like something that's happening in your life because you write about it in your newsletter.
Right.
They'll never watch the video because they're like, corporate types.
Right.
But anyhow, so I like that. I also say there should always, always, always be a call to action in your newsletter. It's too good an opportunity that once somebody has opened it and once they've said, wow, look at this great content she's providing, to not say, here's a way to work with me. Here's a free call I'm doing. Have you checked out my podcast? Other things that can help engage with them. So I always say have a call to action. And then the other thing is, I always have a testimonial in my newsletter because, hello, like if you don't know me, you want to know that there are people I've worked with that actually liked working with me, right?
Right.
Yeah, that said, oh, she really did do something good for me.
So do you feel that everyone should then have a purpose for their newsletter? In other words, you're starting a newsletter with the purpose of X, whether it's to get, and it sounds like what you're saying, possibly you use your newsletter as a way to reach out to potential clients. But I have to assume that some of the people on your list are also current clients or past clients as well, right? So yes. How are you then making sure that you're hitting an interest in everyone? And I guess that's probably where the personal piece comes in as well. But for people who are not sending a newsletter yet and want to start a newsletter, what do you think is, with regard to that call to action, what should they be thinking about? What's the purpose of the newsletter for the average person?
It's about educating the people that are on your list as to what you do in a way that is providing them value without asking for anything from them.
Okay. I love that. But then you have a call to action that is still somewhat salesy, but really it's about still providing value, right?
It's about providing value.
That's Absolutely. Where the mission-driven part of your business comes from, is that believing that what you're selling to clients is something to make their lives better.
Absolutely.
Right.
And even, I very rarely have a call to action in my newsletter that is a direct sale, right? Only if and I haven't done this in a while, but if I've launched a program, a group program of some kind, and I've already done the promotional call for it, and people have had the opportunity to be on that call, which was, of course, free, and learn about what I'm focused on. And then I will sometimes, for maybe a week, have something in my newsletter that says, like, this is the early bird pricing window for this program I'm teaching, and you can claim it, here, and have a button. But almost always that call to action is actually another avenue for me to work with them closely or for them to learn more about me without actually paying me yet. It's a free call with me, a free strategy call, or it is a free teleclass that I'm doing, or it might be, chat with me about maybe having a VIP day with me, but it's not have a VIP day with me. Here's what it costs. Pay now.
Right. Right.
It's like, let's get on the phone and see if this might be something that's right for you. And I do that because, again, this is about building trust with them. And I can afford to spend 15 minutes on the phone with someone who might, be willing to pay for a VIP day with me. Right? That's a good investment of my time.
Sure. It's client development. It makes absolute sense.
It is. It's client development. Exactly. So I always say to have some form of call to action. But again, it's, very rarely is it click pay now,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why I wanted to make that distinction. I wanted to be clear because we said, oh, it's not salesy, but then we say we have a call to action. So I'm glad that you really clarified that so folks can understand what that call to action looks like. And by folks, I mean me and the listeners.
Yeah.
Right. It's all collective. We're all in this together. Okay.
Absolutely.
So as we wind down our time together, the last piece I wanted to ask you with regard to newsletters is that a lot of people feel like their list is too small and that they'll send a newsletter out when they reach 50 or they'll send a newsletter out when they reach 100. What do you say to those people?
Well, I say that I sent a newsletter when I had one person on my list.
And it was your mom, right?
It wasn't my mom because she's not on email. She still can't. The way she talks about the internet and stuff is, I'm going to learn the internet. I'm like, okay, Mom.
At least she says singular. There are some that still say the internets.
Okay, yeah. So one up, go, Mom.
Yeah, right.
No, so I did, though. I started sending a newsletter when I had one person on my list. And I will tell you, I do know who the person was. She is a dear friend of mine. She's never bought a thing for me, and I don't expect that she ever will. But I did it because I knew I needed to make the commitment to myself to make it a regular thing and to make it a system in my business to drive further business. And so that I just said, okay, I've got one person and I'm starting a newsletter this week, and here I go.
And so it didn't feel like a waste to you because it was really about yourself and self-discipline and consistency. It sounds like.
Absolutely. And, one other thing I want to point out is that the reason to send a newsletter consistently is because then when you are selling something, so if I'm promoting a free call, for example, a free teleclass, and then after that teleclass, like I've made an offer to do a program with me or have a call with me about maybe my 3-month, program, then I will send a separate email to people that is specific to that. It will not be when I send my newsletter, and I will still send my newsletter, but it will be a separate email that comes to them specifically about that one issue, item, class, course, opportunity. And so I just want to, the point of building the list and building the trust, yes, of course, ultimately you want to use it to make sales and to bring money into your business, because we all need that in order to keep doing business.
Right.
But the newsletter itself, I really focus on just bringing value to people in that, and value in a way that they don't have to pay for.
Great. That is great. I think this was such a great call. I'm going to listen to this episode a few times myself. I mean, full disclosure, like my listeners know, I'm in the trenches with them. And like I say, and because it's war, right? It can be war. It can feel like war, and we're shoulder to shoulder. And consistency is something that I've written about on the blog and talked about on the show. But I literally just sent my first newsletter out last week.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Well, good
It
for
felt
you.
good though.
Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it added value, and I've gotten some feedback, and I'm looking forward. The next one that I'll send out will actually be a survey, so I can really tap into what my listeners need and what our community needs, and provide those things to them. But, it really is, sometimes it's just about, like you talk about fear, it's just about mindset and saying, I'm going to do this. And it's because I'm giving value. I have to believe that what I'm getting, the I I'm using is the global I for all of us. I have to believe that what I'm selling, what I'm giving, what I'm saying, the content I'm curating or producing is adding value to someone else's life. And if you work from that perspective, it will free you in so many ways, which is why I'm so happy to have Suzanne on the show today, because I know that's her ethos as well.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It's really kind. It's very kind.
Talk to us now about, let's have a call to action. Let's show what a call to action sounds like. Tell me about how folks can work with you, where they can find you, and before we do that, do you have any sort of final parting words of wisdom for our audience, for our listeners?
In terms of marketing your business online, it can feel very overwhelming. I have been there. It's scary. It's technology. A lot of people are afraid of technology, but it's about taking those baby steps, and getting someone to guide you through them is really, really helpful. And a lot of it is mindset. I mean, I think one of the things, the more I go into my business, the more I realize how much mindset affects what everyone does. So, take those baby steps. Just don't feel like you have to start everything at one moment, because you don't. Choose one thing to start and start it, but make the commitment and be consistent. Create the systems that you need in order to be consistent. So that's the one thing that I would share. And then in terms of, I love that introduction. In terms of the call to action, I do have a gift for everyone listening if they'd like to claim it and to get to know me a little bit more, and to understand more about what I do. You can go to SuzanneTMoore.com, and you can grab my free guide, which is called, it's an audio download, Creating, Executing, and Leveraging Your Newsletter to Build a Thriving Online Business.
Do I have to wait till the call is over before I head to your website?
No, you're more than welcome to do it right now. That's just an audio download. It goes deeper into a lot of the things that we've talked about today. Then when you do download that, you also will get a free subscription to my weekly newsletter. And you'll learn about the other teleclasses that I do, and programs I do, and everything else, and opportunities to connect with me further. I hope that your listeners find that valuable, and we'll grab it.
They absolutely will. I know they will. I know my listeners, they will find value in that. So listeners, be sure to head over there. And as you know, all of this information, if you're driving, on the treadmill, etc., will be at the show notes, which are herpowerhustle.com/online marketing. So Suzanne, thank you so much for joining. I have 3 final questions for you in our quick think round, if you're ready. Okay.
I'm ready.
Ready. The first one is, what is your guilty pleasure?
But first, a quick word from Carla Campos of Florida SocialCon.
Hi, my name is Carla Campos, and I am the founder of Florida SocialCon. Florida SocialCon is a social media conference specially tailored for business owners. We have the wonderful Michelle Talbert of this podcast, Her Power Hustle, and she's going to be speaking about using podcasts to grow your business. We also have some of the top digital marketing experts sharing all kinds of content knowledge, including WordPress, content creation, social media ads, Instagram, video, Twitter. So it's going to be a really informative conference where business owners can really learn what they need to do to be successful online. The conference is July 18th at FIU. You can get more information at floridasocialcon.com. We are, of course, on social media. On Facebook, we are facebook.com/FloridaSocialCon. On Instagram and Twitter, we are FLSocialCon. And our hashtag is FLSocialCon. So if for any reason you can't make it, which we don't suggest because the connections that you're going to make at this conference are going to be memorable, you can follow along using our hashtag FLSocialCon. So hope to see you there. The conference is July 18th at FIU. Bye.
Thanks, Carla. I'll see you there. And back to our conversation with Suzanne.
What is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, what isn't my guilty pleasure?
I love that answer.
Oh boy, I am an ice creamaholic. I absolutely love ice cream, and if it's soft serve, forget about it. Yeah.
Well,
In fact, I'm excited because soft serve ice cream season is really we're just coming into it now.
I hope there isn't a Cold Stone Creamery near your house, or if there is, it's in walking distance, so you can at least feel better about walking back and forth to get it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Question number 2. What is your power hustle? Power hustle is synonymous with superpower. So what is that thing, that's not only for Suzanne, but for Superwoman, power hustler, is your power hustle? What is your power hustle?
Absolutely. So when I work with my clients, one of the things that they always note to me, and I think that I really help them with, is I break things down. I break big things that seem really scary down into bite-sized pieces that they can consume in a way that they can consume them and say, okay, I took a really good positive step forward and now I'm ready for the next one. So I kind of say that that's my superpower.
That's a good one to have, especially in your industry and working with clients in a consultative manner. Final question. What is your mantra or theme song? What is that thing that gets you pumped when you're heading into meetings or you're about to do a telesummit and you need to feel in power mode? What is that mantra or song for you?
Okay, so I can literally hear the music, but I'm so bad with music and musicians.
Do you want to sing it?
It's you know what? I'm gonna say it's pretty much anything with a good strong beat from Katy Perry.
Okay.
But no, I don't want to sing it.
That would have been a first on her power hustle, by the way.
I'm gonna say it's anything with a good strong beat from Katy Perry. How's that?
Okay.
Is that fair?
That's absolutely fair. That's absolutely fair. So that means I'm going to choose it because it will be on the show notes.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Go for it.
Absolutely. And actually, I realized it was not a first. We did have someone sing her Power Hustler song. So no, it wouldn't have been a first. So you're off the hook.
Oh, well, then
there you go.
I'm glad I'm not just a
Right.
follow on.
Right. Exactly. Singing on her Power Hustle.
To be a follower.
Hate that. Absolutely. Yeah. Suzanne T. Moore, thank you so much for joining us here at Her Power Hustle. Where can people connect with you on social media?
Oh, on Twitter, I'm ImplementItSuz.
Mm-hmm.
On Facebook, I am facebook.com/The Implementation Station. That's my former business name, but it's still my URL. And of course, you can find me at advancingentrepreneur.com and at SuzanneTMoore.com, and all the links and everything are in those places.
Awesome. And of course, we'll have the links to all of that information in the show notes at herpowerhustle.com/online marketing. Thank you so much, Suzanne. This has been an awesome conversation, and I can't wait to get the audio downloads and just really begin getting your newsletter. And what I love about women business owners and working together and having folks who are sort of behind the mic like we are is that we can learn so much from not only the content that you share, but the way in which you do things to help implement, see, no pun intended, for our best practices as well. So thank you for being so generous with your time and information today, Suzanne.
Michelle, thank you so much. I am delighted that we did this, and I just hope I brought value to your listeners.
I know you did. Thank you, and have a great day.
I'd rather use mine because then I have the, Okay. All right, so the dial-in number is 712-432-3100.
Got it. Meeting ID.
And the meeting ID is 501-076.
Okay, great. I will be in there now.
Okay, I'm going to dial it in too. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
I really hope you got some great value out of that conversation with Suzanne. I know I did. I know that at the time that Suzanne and I had that conversation, I'd only sent out my first newsletter and I had all kinds of trepidation about, reaching out to my list. And even still now, it's been, a few months since we actually had that conversation. And I still have trepidation every time I press send to the list, which is, by the way, growing. And I'm thankful to you, the listener, who are on my list, who are getting that information and who are giving me great feedback about the value that you say that you're receiving. And I think Suzanne is right on point when she says we want to give value, and we want to give value consistently, and we want to make a commitment to give that value. Consistency, I really believe, is the key. I think that that's where many of us falter, is that we stop or quit before we get right to that moment of making it over, the tipping point, as Malcolm Gladwell will call it. I think some of my great takeaways from our conversation was something that Suzanne said that actually echoes last week's episode where we spoke with Parviz Parvizi of Clamor, and that is using what he called the interstitial moments, those periods of downtime when you are in the car waiting for the kids to come out of, basketball or swimming lessons, or when you're online at the grocery store, or when you're doing other things that you can otherwise jump onto social media, interact with folks, influencers, people who you'd like to reach out to, people who have reached out to you, and take advantage of those moments. Also, when she talks about not being quote unquote salesy in our newsletter, when we're touching folks, to really come from a place of adding value. I think if you come from a place that you're helping someone, it makes it a lot easier to sell what you have to offer. I think it was a great conversation, and there were so many takeaways. I'd love to hear from you about your takeaways from the show. Definitely head over to herpowerhustle.com/online marketing to get links to all of the resources that were shared on the show, as well as how to get in touch with Suzanne directly. Be sure to grab that freebie that she offered. It's really great. I actually looked at it, and I am on her list, and I love the way that she interacts and uses video along with written word to reach out to her list. So there's much to learn from Suzanne. I'd love to hear from you. Again, you can also hit me up on social media anywhere and everywhere at Her Power Hustle, including Periscope, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode. And again, I want to mention, if you are listening to this episode prior to July 18 of 2015, it would be great for you to come on out to the Florida Social Con, which will be held at FIU, Florida International University, and in Miami. And we will be also having our first Peri Day MIA. If you are a scoper, you know that there have been various Periscope meetups happening all around the country, and because there will be so many of us there, including Kathy Hackle and other folks, we thought it would be fun to have our first Periscope Day in Miami. Peri Day, MIA is the hashtag, and we will be sharing more information as that draws near as well. Finally, if you are interested in hanging out with some amazing women entrepreneurs who are doing their thing, sharing great information, and you're not in South Florida, or you are in South Florida and you're also anywhere else around the globe, you can join us in the Sister Power Hustlers Facebook group, and you can reach us at Her Power Hustle. You can reach us through Facebook at Sister Power Hustlers, and you can get into the group that way, or you can head over to herpowerhustle.com/Facebook and join us that way. We look forward to having you. We look forward to sharing with you, and I'll see you on the next episode. As we say, her hustle is real.
Thanks for tuning in to the Her Power Hustle podcast, produced and hosted by Michelle Talbot, with voiceover talent by Mr. Matt Young.